Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here today and to share with you my thoughts on Resident Evil, the final chapter. We made it through all 6 films of the live-action series, and I am super excited. This was my series in focus for 2019's 31 Days of Horror. I always like to pick a film series to go through and watch or rewatch, usually a combination of watch and rewatch and catch up with a film series, and this is one where that definitely was the case. I had not seen all of them, but I watched them all, and this is the 6th and the final chapter. And before I go into any details, even the details of this one, there will be spoilers. This is definitely going to be a spoiler-heavy one. Can't help it, you know, 6th film in a franchise, can't help but mention things that happened in previous films, even stuff that's on this list is spoilery. So, you know, if you haven't seen it, I would just say watch it. I had a blast watching it, but of course I would recommend watching it after all of the other films, although maybe it's let's get to the details. This was written and directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. He's back to write and direct again. He did Resident Evil Retribution, Resident Evil Afterlife, and the original Resident Evil. And he wrote them all. He just didn't direct the second or third one, but it was all him in this one. And going to the cast, we have a lot of reprisals. Of course, Milla plays Alice again in this film. And then we have where things get confusing and spoilery. We have Glen. How's that possible? We have Ali Larter, which is possible. Shawn Roberts, not sure. I really didn't think he made it this far. And then we have some new faces. Ruby Rose, Eoin Macken. I'm not sure if I'm saying his first name right. Eoin? I'm probably not saying it right. William Levy. Link to the IMDb page, of course, will be down below for if you want to check out the entire cast and crew. This came out in 2016, which was 3 years ago. That's farther back than I thought. It's definitely a horror movie because it is a zombie movie, but generally I would say this actually really is an action movie because there's so much action and mayhem and goodness, and that is a lot of the fun of it. I gave this one 8 out of 10 or 4 out of 5 and a heart. So Resident Evil, the final chapter, and this one says finish the fight, which is a good line, I think. And although I have seen posters that said evil comes home, which makes, I get that. The coming home makes sense. I'm not sure who they're saying is evil because I don't think Milla's evil. I don't know. So this one, I think the best way to approach this one is just, and this is actually a pretty good approach, I think, for all of the Resident Evil movies, is try not to think too hard about what happened in the previous movie. Just take the explanation they give for any of the situations or characters. Just take it as true. Just take it as true. Because I was like, how can Glen be in this? And they do explain it, but I was like, really? And then they explain it a little clearer, and I'm like, okay, maybe. I don't know. But I'm not sure about that. And then also Shawn Roberts, like, I don't know. Like, I thought he blew up at the end of Afterlife. I really thought he blew up. She put a bomb on his plane, but I think he was in Retribution, so. But in Retribution, he seemed almost like the Red Queen, like he seemed almost like a computer, but he has that I look like I am a video game character, like, and he always wears the sunglasses, so it's just, I'm confused. So anyway, so this one is just, has so much mayhem in it, just so much mayhem, and I can't quite remember exactly how it starts. It's also got a bit of it actually has a bit of a Mad Max feel to it, because it does have a lot of stuff like on the road and tanks, and she finds out that, you know, she could cure, so I already said spoilers, but she could cure, you know, humanity. She can cure the T-virus if she releases an antivirus, an airborne antivirus that'll kill the T-virus. And so humanity has a chance, and there's only X amount of time left because there's only X amount of humans left, and, you know, otherwise everyone's gonna, you know, all the zombies will really take over. How have the zombies not taken over after, 14 years? That's in real time. I don't know how much time has passed in the world. Probably less than 2 years from some of the 6 months later types of things. Anyway, so yeah, so she gets that message, so she's gonna head home to Raccoon City, which I don't think was Toronto this time. Raccoon City proper, like in 2, Apocalypse was set in Toronto, and some of Retribution was in Toronto, but This one wasn't. This one actually had really huge locations, and that was some of the big draw. I thought, like a lot of the, going across sort of wastelands with hordes of zombies behind the tanks and stuff like that. And she, a lot of the time, drives a motorcycle, and that was really cool. And then they get to Raccoon City, and it's like totally like decrepit and just like, really has, been, it's really in a state of disrepair. It's worse than that. It's like pretty much destroyed. But they really used the landscapes for the action pieces, which I thought was a lot of fun. And one of my favorite scenes, probably in the entire franchise, was the action sequence that was in. There's a building that's like circular. I don't know if it's supposed to be fake City Hall. Yeah, but it's circular, and they do like medieval, like pyrotechnical, like chaos, like stuff. Like they do fiery catapults and all of this, like, because they have gasoline but not much else, so they use fire a lot in that one. But they lure in all the hordes of the zombies and then just like set it all on fire. It's like, wow, it was epic. I thought the action was epic. The story was it was a little more convoluted. I think the explanations for some of the characters, especially Ian Glen's character, was a little convoluted. Like they said, but it was consistent. I finally tracked the logic, and I was like, okay, I get where they're going. And this is something that I don't think, you would have picked up on from the previous films. And so I'm going to accept it as truth. And that was that Ian Glen's character, as well as others, but Ian Glen's character was a clone. So although Milla killed him in, I think it was Extinction, he was actually a clone of the real Ian Glen character. I can't remember. He's Dr. Dr. Jacob, the doctor character. But the trick of the spin of that is that his character didn't know he was a clone. So but there does, and I was like, he wasn't a clone because he like mutated, and so that was where I was confused, because Mila's like, I killed your clone, like I killed you, and then I killed your clone, and I'm like, how did she track that? But then eventually we learn that all of the board, we'll say, and of Umbrella, as well as rich people who could pay, were cryogenically frozen or whatever. So and they set out the virus intentionally, so this could rid the Earth of overpopulation, and they could start anew, and it just be them, the elite. So that's pretty messed up, and I did not see it coming. And there were a couple other things that I didn't see coming, including about Mila's character, that I thought, like, I didn't initially see it coming, and then I saw where they were going with someone and saw some creative editing choices and recognized a voice here and there, and I figured it out. So, but it was still good. I thought it tracked. It just took a little bit to figure out that so many people were cloned. So, and can they clone? Like, when they clone Milla in the third one, it's so disturbing, and it's the first time you see it that it's a bit weird for it to track back and to be an earlier thing that's cloned. Anyway, I thought this was a lot of fun. I think if you take it as an action movie and like the mayhem and all of the bizarre, not bizarre, but like different set pieces, and the different action sequences, that was a lot of fun. Milla was, of course, amazing. There was some of the action scenes were, especially those hand-to-hand combat ones, I thought had so many edits that sometimes it was a little hard to understand what was going on, and I'm not a huge fan of that. But I think we did run through a time period, which was probably around this time, where we saw this a lot in film, and I think it scaled back a little bit from that. So there was that. And it was nice to see Ali Larter's character again. I was sad that Wentworth Miller wasn't in it. I'm like, if they're going to have Claire, why can't they have Chris too? So I don't know, maybe he was off doing other stuff. I really liked his character. But I thought it was a fun way to end the series. But they did leave the door open a little bit, that isn't necessarily the end. But I hope they keep it at this. Not that I wouldn't want to see more of them, but I don't like when they say it's the final chapter and then it's actually not. So that would only be my excuse me, that would be my only criticism, is if they knew it wasn't going to be the last one and they called it the final chapter. So, but overall, I thought it was a lot of fun. The action was so much fun to watch. It was nice to see. I like Ian Glen, like his, it's especially now, like, it's weird, like, because, I've seen him on Game of Thrones, so it's kind of weird to see him in this context yet again. But there was actually some really good sequences between him and Milla, like, fighting too. And it was was intense and it was fun. And I watched this with my sister Susie, so thank you, Susie, for watching this one with me. I had a lot of fun doing that, and it was great to explore the Resident Evil universe together. Had I been saying Evil Dead? My goodness, I really hope I didn't say Evil Dead, because this is Resident Evil. So anyway, Resident Evil, the final chapter, made it all the way to the end. I'm really happy with this as a choice for the Focus film series for 31 Days of Horror. I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, and in all honesty, they are a bit more action films than horror films, but they are really gruesome. Like, this one was really gruesome. It was very bloody. There was lots of maiming. There was lots of, there was actually a fair amount of maiming, and lots of punching and explosions and gunfire and chase sequences and motorcycle sequences and tank sequences and huge expanses of things to cross, and even like puzzle game ish weird, there wasn't puzzles, but there were lots of sequences where you could imagine this in a game, like needing to get from point A to point B and going through tunnels and people being split off, and a huge turbine. Oh my god, the huge turbine. I never liked the huge turbine. Anyway, so much fun. Great way to finish a series, and I really hope that they leave it here. Maybe one day I will go watch the animated ones. Let me know if you have watched the animated ones. Do you really have to have played the games to get the continuity? Because I considered that for this time around, but then it looked like they were more tied to that than to this. So I thought I would leave the live action ones as the ones to explore and focus on, and I'm really, really happy. So yeah, in terms of rating, I think this one was, I don't know, the original. Let's do a very quick and unprepared favorites. So let's go from worst. Let's go from worst to best. Let's do that. It will not take long. It will not take long at all. That's in the wrong spot. Okay, so I would say my ranking for the Evil Dead movies, my least favorite was definitely Evil Dead Apocalypse. The second one, it had some gender crap in there that was not very good. The effects just didn't really hold up over time. Although I love that it was set in Toronto, it wasn't great. And it had way too many stories going on at the same time. It didn't hold together very much. Although I love the fact that Oded Fehr is in it, and there were things that were enjoyable, but generally it was all over the place. And then also this one had some revisionist history, I think, in terms of one of the characters, the character who's the girl's father isn't... I can't remember the logic. I thought, were they saying Ian Glen was her father? No, they weren't. No, they weren't saying that. So they didn't muck that up. But they didn't get the original actor back. So anyway, it doesn't matter. Coming in fifth place is the fifth film, which is Retribution. Yeah. That was a bit of a mess. It was lots of good action sequences, but I thought the story didn't hold up very well. And I thought it was very confusing, the whole simulations. I just like, what? Coming in number fourth place, I would say Extinction. The third film, one of the few ones I had seen before. No, I had seen it. This one had some fun moments. I enjoyed it better than I expected. This is the one set in the desert. We get Ian Glen's character for the first time. And, but there were some things I felt didn't hold. I think the whole cloning thing really creeped me out, and that's why I didn't like it on first watch. And in the next spot, I would put Afterlife. Even though I would say Extinction is probably a better movie, I enjoyed Afterlife a lot. I don't know why. I think it doesn't do a great job at storytelling. I think it's more like Retribution in that way, but I enjoy it and I like the characters. I do. I just liked it. And then coming in second place is the final chapter. Now that could be the bias of recency, but I really thought the action in this was stellar. It could be that was only 3 years ago as opposed to 12 years ago. That totally happens. We get used to and excited about things. We get used to things that are old and excited about things that we haven't seen before. So over time, will that hold up as my second favorite? I don't know. I thought it was a fun way to end the series, and I really had a fun time watching it. So I'm keeping it at number 2. But the original Resident Evil, number 1 is number 1. It was the best. It really was the best. And it is a little weird to go through this whole process and then come back to enjoying the first film the best, but it's the classic. I think oddly, it did such a good job at so many of the things that I think in later films that were either used repeatedly, like the dogs ended up in each film. I don't know why. And so, but the first time you see them, it's like, whoa, creepy. And Milla versus the dogs is like great, but then it just was in every film. But I thought the story was solid and we didn't know where things were going. They do explain it in this one, which is kind of nice. They do wrap things up in the final chapter. I don't know if that's how they envisioned them from the first film. But yeah, I thought the action was good. I liked the whole cast. And it started the whole thing off. It was gruesome, but it wasn't over the top. Like, it chose its moments, and I appreciate that as well. So yeah, so that is the Resident Evil franchise live action movies, and I had so much fun. So let me know your ranking of the 6 films, and or which one that, or simply just which one you enjoyed the most. And that completes the Resident Evil showdown. So much fun. So much fun. I had such a good time. So thank you for coming along the journey with me. And yeah, I will see you in another video very soon. But, you know, I guess this is, I guess I won't hear, this is Alice. I work for the Umbrella Corporation. One more time, unless I decide to rewatch them. I'm going to give myself a little time before that. A little time before that. Okay, thank you so much for watching.